I'm Ellie, a 30-year-old housewife. I live with my older sister Mary at my parents' house until I married Sean, who was 2 years older than me. My parents died in a car accident when I was 17. Although I have relatives on both my father's and mother's side, they couldn't support me due to their family circumstances. The one who raised me until I became an adult was my sister Mary, who was 3 years older than me. Despite being an adult herself, she allowed me to go to a 2-year vocational school, who decided to work after graduating from high school instead of going to college. Although I was exempted from tuition and admission fees through a scholarship system, the course content was difficult, and my days were filled with study. While I was unable to earn living expenses due to my focus on studying, she worked for me every day. I have always admired her, who supported me with kindness different from my parents. I met my husband John at a friend's birthday party. He was a 21-year-old college student at the time and looked mature with his humble attitude. Surrounded by lovely women, he was popular, and I watched him from afar, thinking how amazing it was. However, I was the one he asked for contact information. Although I was confused, I firmly refused. Thank you for speaking to me about mine, who we focused on my studies, and could I have time to date someone? I don't mean to interfere with your studies. I'd be happy if you could start as friends, just as you want to talk to casually. I couldn't refuse anyone after who said that with a smile, and ended up exchanging contact information. John, true to his word, never interfered with my studies. On the contrary, she helped me with what I didn't understand. It was exactly the ideal man for me, who respected my decision and supported me. His words were filled with kindness, and it didn't take long before I wanted to change my relationship with him. Around the time we became more than friends, he proposed to me. Let me propose properly. Will you date me on the promise of marriage? His typical words reminded me of his dedicated attitudes for fun. I had always longed for marriage and building a family. I believed that if we became a married couple, we could overcome any difficulty together. I swear to protect Ellie who you love, no matter what happens. John, please take good care of my sister. One reason for my decision was not only that she accompanied me to visit my parents' grave, but also that he greeted my sister, who was like a parent. We became a couple as soon as we graduated from our respective schools. At John's strong desire, we started living together with his parents right after we got married. Commonly, living with a was leads to mother-in-law and brother-in-law problems, but I wasn't worried. When I visited for the marriage greeting, my mother-in-law welcomed me warmly. I'm so glad that a lovely young woman like you has come as a bride. I'm glad my son worked hard to bring the bride home. It seems that John's father passed away when John was young. From then on, his mother raised John all by herself. Seeing her crying face, I felt a sharp pain in my nose as I remembered the image of my sister. I'm sure my sister is just as happy about my marriage. I made up my mind to try my best to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law and John, to become a loving family of 3. At this time, I was oblivious to the true nature of Ben, believing that my happiness would last forever. The image of an ideal family started crumbling on the second day of living together. I was woken up early in the morning and received instructions, leaving John, who was sleeping soundly in the bedroom. These instructions were supposed to be for perfect housekeeping. At first, I followed what my mother-in-law said, but after a few days, I started questioning her instructions. Every day she would give different instructions from the previous day and then scold me loudly, no matter which method I used. Since these tedious and passive-aggressive instructions were given every day, even I, who was slow to react, realized within a week that this was bullying. I thought I might have inadvertently upset her without realizing it. but I couldn't think of anything I had done, so I ended up asking. I, who had a habit of asking questions about things that bothered me since childhood, angered my mother-in-law by asking why her instructions were inconsistent. Ellie, again? How many times do I have to tell you to do as I say? You told me to do it this way yesterday, right? Why do you change the instructions every day? Don't talk back to your mother-in-law. You are a bride, you should obey me. No matter how I carried out the household chores, she would get angry, so I was desperately troubled and decided to consult John. I thought he probably wouldn't listen properly in the back of my mind by asking him, John, can I talk about your mother's instructions? God is right. Since my mom is teaching you what's on her heart, you should be grateful to her. His attitude changed dramatically since her guidance began. While he used to prioritize me when we were dating, it seems he rarely takes my side now, focusing mostly on his mother. Nevertheless, he was the only person I could consult with. Of course, I'm grateful, but you have different instructions from the previous day and yells at me when I make a mistake. Could you at least ask her to standardize her guidance? She's human. She makes mistakes sometimes. She's trying hard every day, but all you do is criticize her. That's not true. It's criticism. It's just an opinion. I can't see it that way. But I think Mom would say too. You should just do as she says, Ellie. You're not highly educated, so stop overthinking and just do the housework. As expected, he ended the conversation assuming I was at fault. Both John and his mother pride themselves on their high education and look down on me because they believe a vocational school is different from university. Indeed, John graduated from a prestigious university and is currently employed by a major company. I genuinely admire him for graduating from university working for a big company. However, I just couldn't accept their behavior of judging people based on their educational background. There are many people who evaluate others based on their abilities, but it seems they can break away from this bad custom. Now, as we enter our 10th year of marriage, and having lived with my mother-in-law for 10 years, I've experienced and been told every certificate of mother-in-law bullying. They belittle me for not having parents, and ridicule my sister for not being married. When they didn't like my questions, both John and his mother would sometimes deliberately ignore me. I used to cry from the shock in the early days of our marriage, but now I act as if I don't care. That's because if I cried or argued back, my mother-in-law would be overjoyed. She's been spreading rumors to the neighbors, saying, even though I treat Ellie like my own daughter, she's cold to me. I'm doing my best to care for my son and his wife, and apparently she enjoys isolating me. Since my mother-in-law has been living here since she got married, she seems to have more say than me, the newcomer, and there are few neighbors who believe in me. When the neighbors who believe my mother-in-law's words tell me, you are lucky to have such a good mother-in-law, I can't speak the truth for fear of worsening my current position if I argue. If you will understand me say, I'm sorry I can't help you, behind her back. However, I don't want them to end up feeling as isolated as they do. So, all I could say was, I'm fine. My resolution to work hard to become part of my family has been slowly torturing me. The family I had imagined wasn't supposed to be this painful. Feeling bereft of not having anyone to talk to other than my mother-in-law and John, I went for an interview at the local supermarket that I happened to see in a job magazine. If I wanted to reduce the time I spent at home, I figured I should go out and work too. The manager, surprised by my fierce determination and unusual outfit, conducted the interview. After I explained that I could work any day as long as it was acceptable, and that I would be happy to come in on my days off if there were any absence, I was hired on the spot due to a lack of staff. I informed the two men at dinner that night that I had taken a part-time job at a local supermarket. I knew if I asked beforehand, I would be granted permission. As expected, my mother-in-law began grumbling. A woman should stay at home and protect the family, not go out. Clearly, you were not taught common sense, since you have no parents. Easy, line. She deserves part-time work. After all, anyone can work at the supermarket. There's no way anyone would hire an undereducated person like her as a full-time employee. If you say so. Just remember, I won't forgive you if she starts slacking off on housework. Yes, thank you. It seemed they allowed me to work because my mother-in-law also shops at the local supermarket and didn't want it to look bad if I quit. I wanted to respond to their condescending comments, but I decided to simply stand back out of fear that they might prevent me from working if they were upset. The person who interviewed me turned out to be the store manager. I vaguely explained my house situation and has been worrying about me like a real parent. My colleagues are kind, but not only one maintain a healthy distance, saying every household has its own issues, right? Thanks to my experience working part-time at the convenience store in high school, I was able to handle the supermarket register. Although I still have a lot to learn compared to my colleagues, being praised for what I can do has boosted my confidence, even though I pretended not to care. I was indeed hurt by the belittling remarks from my mother-in-law and John. Having the workplace as an escape route has made me feel more comfortable at home, and I don't think it's just my imagination. Since I started working, the unusual morning gardens has ceased. Yes, being late would look bad, and I have started to look forward to getting up in the morning. I never thought I'd look forward to the morning so much without my mother-in-law's alarm. Being able to wake up at my own pace has eliminated the mistakes caused by sleep deprivation. With a more relaxed mind, I made sure to thoroughly finish my housework before going to work, so as not to start any conflicts. Seeing my mother-in-law unable to scold me and seeming frustrated, I began to go to work more often. I had not been inside the carefree manner for the last 10 years. I knew exactly what to do to avoid any complaints from my mother-in-law. After getting married, my sister often expressed her worries, but I vaguely told her that I was being treated kindly. Even though I had finally gotten married and she had more time for herself, I didn't want to worry her and tell her about the current situation because it would defeat the purpose. I thought I was enjoying my new environment, but I soon realized that the stress from before had physically manifested as a reaction. One day, when I had gotten used to the job and had a day off, I noticed my mother-in-law and John were restless since morning. I had a feeling something was going on, but I kept quiet and didn't say nothing unnecessary. While I was doing my usual chores, my sister called me. "Ellie, it's been a while. I'm sorry I haven't been able to contact you recently. How have you been?" "Hi, Mary. It has been a while. How about you? Are you doing good?" "I'm doing well as usual. You know better than anyone, but I'm the picture of health. I finally got a day off today. Can we meet up? Let me ask John. I'll call you back. I barely have any free time as I go back and forth between home and work, especially because my mother-in-law doesn't let me go out." You probably don't understand since you don't have parents, Ellie. What would the neighbors think if a well-educated brother-in-law like you was gallivanting around instead of doing housework? Are you trying to smear mud on my face? That's what she said to me when I was invited by a friend from my school days. At that time, I had completely lost my confidence due to the verbal abuse from my mother-in-law and John, but I had accepted my mother-in-law's words as absolute truth, so I declined my friend's invitation. But now, things are different. With regained confidence thanks to my co-workers, I asked John a question, perceiving I could meet my sister. John, it's okay if I go out today, right? Huh? Ellie, what about house chores? I hung back the laundry and it would take a while to dry, so it would be fine to bring it in when I get back. Oh, and I've already finished all the cleaning. I did the shopping on my way back, so it's okay for me to go out, right? So, what about cleaning the bathroom? I finished cleaning the bathroom, and I've also done the monthly top cleaning. Wanted to confine me to the house and pile on the work, like a stepmother from a fairy tale. John, enumerating all the housework he could think of, was at a loss for words, as I had already finished it all. With the grunt, Honoria seemed to whisper something to John, and opened her mouth instead. We are also going out, so we'll... Alright, it's Thursday. But, if you're not back by the time we return, you won't be allowed back into the house. Understood. I hastily went to my bathroom and called my sister. Come on, Mary. They seem to have plans today, so I'm free. Ben, let's go for lunch. I picked you up soon. After hanging out and returned to the living room, they had already left. I cleaned up the crumbs from the snacks they must have eaten just before leaving, till I could tidy and got ready to go out. I waved to my sister's car that I could see waiting in front of the house. Mary, just will come to pick me up. As I got into the passenger seat after expressing my Spanish, I noticed that Mary's previous ritual face had become stern. Ellie, you look terrible. What do you mean, Mary? I don't understand why me gone. How bad? What's with those bags under your eyes? And haven't you lost weight since the last time we met? You're eating 3 meals a day, aren't you? My attempts to hide it with makeup were in vain against my sister's sharp gaze. I've been getting enough sleep and eating properly. I don't think you'd notice I'd lost a little weight. Harry, you could become a diet trainer, couldn't you? I can tell the details because it's you, Ellie. I was thinking of going to eat your favorite pasta. So let's change the plan. We're going to a steakhouse. What? Steak? Let's eat meat and get energized. I've got into meat recently, so I'll make a reservation. Mary, not turning to herself, parked in front of the house and started eating her phone. She then drove us to a steakhouse she seemed to have been able to book on her phone. I was thinking how good it was to be able to make reservations online. And then we arrived at the high-end steakhouse that I'd heard from a senior colleague at work was delicious, but too expensive to go to often. As soon as we entered the steakhouse, we were guided to our seats. This was my first time at the high-end steakhouse, and I was nervous. Larry, you didn't tell me. Just relax, it's a place run by my classmate. I've been told to come by for a while now, and I thought it would be nice to come with you. I was familiar with the steakhouse owner, who was also my sister's classmate, and he came to greet us at our table. Knowing it was a fancy restaurant, my tension eased and my stomach growled loudly. The 7 private room was cozy, and the quality of the meat was so good that I could understand why it was called a high-end restaurant. The meat was so tender, it seemed to melt as soon as it touched my tongue, and the sweet and spicy sauce covered meat made me feel like I was savoring happiness. As I was enjoying the delicious meat while chatting with my sister, I heard a familiar voice. To my surprise, my mother-in-law and John were sitting at the nearby table. decision not to have noticed us, and were busily opening eating wires and asking from the touch funnel. I'm truly amazed at your work. I can't believe you won a free invitation in the sweepstakes. I've been interested in this place for a while, since we won. We have to get our money's worth. He was eating without caring about the nuts around his mouth, and it looked quite unrefined from a distance. Even the waitress, who came to clear the empty plates, looked stressed out. As I was understanding, the reason why my permission to go out was approved more easily than usual. Jean had wiped his mouth with a napkin, patted his belly. I ate so much I had to stop while I'm still in Japan. Well, they seem to use decent meat here, so I suppose it's passable. Come on, Mom, you shouldn't tell the truth like that. You should be more complimentary. I wanted to report out my mother-in-law who was speaking in a superior tone despite eating voraciously, but I bit my tongue. Then John started to say something outrageous. Well, it just went by, hasn't it? This month, I'll be starting a new life with my mistress, and the three of us. Mistress? Your wife? I couldn't comprehend the conversation, as these unfamiliar words echoed in my head. My sister, who had been half rising, suggesting we should go over to the green band, stiffened her face. Oh my Ellie, Mimi is a good girl. I'm relieved. I'm looking forward to living in France. I can't wait for next month, can I? I was puzzled about why when suddenly came up, but more importantly, who is this Minnie? After a nonsensical conversation, they continued with comments that belittled my sister and me, and the delicious meat began to taste bad. As I was about to suggest to my sister that we should leave, I saw that she was calmly taking the video of the scene around her with her smartphone. Ellie, you'll have to tell me everything in detail. But we should probably go soon. The two of them are going for a massage afterward, right? You had plenty of time before you. They were discussing their future plans loudly. The subtext of her words was, tell me everything you've been hiding. Before I knew it, she had paid the bill, and she was taking me to the cafe in the private room. Resigned to her pressure, I told her everything that had happened since we started living together. So, all that happened. I'm sorry, I couldn't notice it, Ellie. You've nothing to apologize for. In the end, I'm sorry I caused trouble. If I don't need to apologize, then neither do you, Ellie. But Sean making promises like this, I just didn't believe it. It seemed like she was more angry at him than me. She has always disliked having promises broken. Based on their conversation, it seems he might have a mistress. Ellie, what do you want to do from here? Am I going to end up getting a divorce? From what I gather from what you told me, he might try to blame it on you and ask for a divorce. He might even ask for compensation. What? I haven't done anything wrong. I don't want such a divorce. I know, isn't fair. How do you feel about his mistress? I didn't really feel anything. I didn't think she loved me, like when we were dating. And I don't want to live with people who make a fool of my precious parents and sister. Should we work together to punish these two? A chance forgive them for making fun of our parents. If we can punish them, I'd like to. But he might divorce me within this month. We can collect various pieces of evidence and bury the divorce notice from our side first. We sisters decided to punish John, our mother-in-law. Until we collect enough evidence, I decided to continue playing the obedient wife. When I returned home from shopping, no one had arrived yet. I breathed a sigh of relief and finished up all the remaining housework. When they returned in the evening, they carried a distinctive scent of steak and message oil. Considering the amount of meat they had eaten, I served light and refreshing salads for dinner, only to receive complaints. You had all this time to yourself, and you served simple salads. Just make something that takes more effort. Yeah, Mum used to serve salads with soup and cornbread. Is that so? Would you want me to cut some slices of cornbread and make soup now? No need today. It will be too late if you start now. John seemed fine, but it seemed to me you had indeed been too heavy for her. Even while complaining, they declined soup and bread, and quickly finished their salad. Perhaps due to eating a lot and feeling drowsy, they took a shower after the meal, and went to bed earlier than usual. As I washed the dishes, I was secretly pleased that I had collected evidence to remember. I had launched an application which I was using normally on my smartphone, and it was equipped with the function of converting voice into text. As per my sister's advice, I had also installed a GPS in the dashboard camera in my car. John was in his luxury car when he goes to work for appearances. He doesn't want to get his fastest foreign car dirty, so he uses my car for outings on his days off. Shed, John uses your car on his days off, right? He might be going to his mistress's place. Despite my disbelief, I installed the equipment, and by the following week, I was able to gather evidence. I found that he was going in and out of an environment that was neither our home nor his workplace. From the contents of the conversation, I learned that it was Mimi's house. Next month, I'll be able to get married. I want to liberate you from your wife as soon as possible. The wife is bossy even though she can't do housework right. Yeah, that's right. Even when my mom complains, nothing improves. If that were me, I'd work hard at housework, just like your mother says. Thank you, Mimi. You're the only one who would say that I can't live without you. I can't live without you, John. It was unpleasant to listen to, but from this conversation, it was clear that Mimi knew John was married. In other words, Mimi was continuing her relationship with him, recognizing that it was an affair. I thought it would take more time, but I had gathered more than enough evidence. Now that I'm prepared, I should be able to handle being told about the divorce at any time. As the end of the month approached, John began to get restless, just like the day at the steakhouse. I thought he really wasn't good at keeping secrets. I'm still pretending to be a good wife, so I pretended not to notice. A rare day off without plans, he finally took action. As I was about to go buy fresh vegetables from a nearby farm, he stopped me and said, I have something to talk to you about. What do you want to talk about? I'm divorcing you, so be prepared. He glared at me and shouted loudly. Although I was aware of this and acted nonchalantly, had I not heard that conversation at the steakhouse, I would have been truly shocked. Divorce? You can't just see that out of the blue. What's the reason for the divorce? Did I do something wrong? You're not aware of it. How pitiful. You haven't done proper housework in 10 years and are disqualified as a wife. It's natural for a woman as incompetent as you to be served with divorce. She said this to me, cutting off John, who was about to speak. I just like housework exactly as you told me. It's too harsh to divorce for that reason. How dare you talk back again? You talking back to my mother like that is one of the reasons. Plus, I already have the woman I've chosen in my heart. There's need changes. Or should I say excellences? I'm Nina, and I'm planning to be his wife. The woman he invited into the living room was the owner of the voice I'd heard many times in the record of the dashboard camera. Sure haven't fun of there. But more closer than I fell not, our love is real. Please let me be happy soon. I will make him happy. Noon. Like you, Nanny is a very good girl. She doesn't talk back, and about all, she's young. We don't use it anymore. Pressured by the three of them to get a divorce, I was boiling with anger. If I showed my emotions here, it would put me at a disadvantage. I lowered my eyes and shivered, deciding to keep up the act a little longer. If I dumped you, nobody would want you, would they? But maybe it's the best for me. You understand, right? Of course you should pay spouses for it. I shivered about acting, about holding back love. He has no awareness that he's seeing something absurd. He is beyond my supposition about how much a man can live in the fantasy world. He wants to divorce me and start a new family with her. I understand. Let's get a divorce. He had a triumphant look in his face at my words. I made one last request. I have a favor to ask. May I be the one to apply for the divorce? You must be busy preparing for your future with her. You're saying that so you won't submit it, aren't you? I submitted properly. Come on, Mimi, it's good because it saves us the trouble of submitting it. Do your job properly at the end. He ironically had his fingers crossed in front of me and laughed. I silently ignored them and called my sister on the phone. She was waiting for me in the car park. Who's this woman? She's Ellie's sister. The one was the shower learning. She's in the family anymore, so could you please live with her? You'll dirty our house, in response to his mockery. My sister silently handed him her business card. What's this business card? A lawyer? Toss a lie, it must be a fake. It's a famous law firm, isn't it? If you doubt it, feel free to call the office to confirm. You can also search my name. The name came up. Surely does seem like a lawyer. What should we do? What to do? My mother-in-law and others were surprised to find out my sister was a lawyer. The office she works for is a major one, known to everyone in this area. Let me introduce her again. She's my sister, the lawyer I've hired. Hello, I'm the shower learning lawyer. As I introduced my sister, John and his mother completely changed their attitude and started to cozy up to her. Millie was puzzled by this, who had changed their attitude. Oh, her sister is a lawyer. You should have told us. How distant. Right, Mom. John, you just said they're not family. Shut up, Mimi. Emmy, you should have told us. Having a lawyer in the family is something to be proud of. How much do you want to insult us? You just said we were not family, didn't you? And that we'll bury the house. Did I say something like that? I don't remember. You insult us as shallow learners, but you don't remember what you said. I remembered all you said. So, I can write them down to the documents required anytime. Then, my sister repeated exactly what you said. By the way, all of our conversation up until now is being recorded on my phone app as well. You might intend to divorce by blaming Ellie, but that's not going to happen. John, we have gathered evidence of your affair and the harassment from your mother. Shall we clarify things in court? Court? Yes, you intended to get spousal support from Ellie, right? We want to claim damages for the infliction of emotional distress against you, so I think it's better to involve a third party. My sister calmly begins to explain the flow of the lawsuit. At the word lawsuit, he was too upset to see something. Instead, his mother tries to stop my sister. Whose idea? It is just a lawsuit. I wouldn't be able to show my face outside if I were sued. I'm just doing what I was asked to do by my sister. It's not for you to decide whether or not to sue. Having been refused by my sister, she approached me was the same flute. Ellie, you owe me a favor, don't you? Do you know what will happen if you sue me? I wonder what will happen. John, you admit that you had an affair and your mother harassed me. I admit, but please no lawsuit. How about you, John? I, I admit it too. Please. I made sure to record their words and tell them about compensation for the harassment they had done to me. Seeing the amount of the compensation, three of them are now panicking. How amazing they are, not even apologize at this point. Hold on. I was counting on the support from Ellie, so I barely have any savings. Yes, we originally got the divorce because of Ellie's fault. Oh, really? And we can't pay this amount all at once. Ellie, you're not that right. I am an uneducated woman, so I don't understand. Can you explain it to me? Or should we just go to court? Please, no court. If you let me pay these instruments, I will definitely pay. Of course, there's no way I can forget them, but I propose an idea, because I think dragging this out will take a long time. That is the plan to allow payment in instruments on the condition that they do not contact me anymore, including phone or letter, and do not come to my house or try to meet me. Despite their contempt for my proposal, they will welcomely accept the conditions. Whoever we think is better than being sued. I submitted the divorce application form to the court the same day, and after a while the divorce was finalized successfully. John, now single, seemed to want to marry me immediately, but reality was not so sweet. Before he forced me to divorce, I had asked my sister to send certified mail to his workplace and Mimi's parents' house. His affair became known to his company, where he had been posing as a loving husband, and he was taken off the promotion track. When he was called into his boss's office and offered a transfer, he was reportedly pale as a ghost. With his high pride, he couldn't bear to become subordinate to his juniors, and voluntarily resigned on the spot. The mother-in-law, who used to brag about her son working at the large company, was taken aback, and had a heated argument when he quit his job without consulting her. Apparently, the argument was so loud it could be heard outside, and the neighbors learned everything from the affair to his resignation. The words spread from the neighbors to the community, and the lie of her being a mother who cares about her son and his wife was exposed, and she began to be looked at with scorn. John proposed to Mimi that they should live separately from his father's house, but Mimi, who was only interested in his money and status, lost interest in him after his resignation. After erasing John's contact information and deciding to stay quietly at her parents' house for a while, she reportedly was scolded like never before when she made a phone call. This is a counter of the document I sent. Her infidelity was exposed to her parents, and she was essentially disowned. She was abandoned by her parents, and probably cannot return to her parents' house, and is working multiple jobs desperately to pay the compensation. John, who was rejected by Mimi, apparently ended up returning to his parents' house, and is living there, conscious of other people's eyes. He is said to be working part-time at convenience stores in supermarkets, far from home, burning living expenses and money for the compensation. The mother-in-law and John sent letters to my parents' house saying, "I loved you like a daughter, and you were ungrateful, and let's reconcile. You were the only wife for me. Mimi was only after my money, respectively." When my sister and I read it, we sent back a message through my sister saying, "If you contact us again, you'll have to make all the payments at once," and the messages completely stopped coming. He is so quiet now. It's hard to believe he used to be so arrogant. It was rather hard from the few people who understood the situation. On the other hand, I started living alone in an apartment near my parents' house. I used the compensation from them as part of my capital to start a new company. I have been wanting to establish it for a long time, using the economics I studied in the vocational school. Even though it's a divided payment, it's not a small amount. You should go on a trip or something. Thanks, Mary. But it's been my dream for so long. As for myself, I'm satisfied with this use of funds, because my dream has come true. Although there are still few employees, and there is a lot to learn and what to do, I'm spending fulfilling days every day. I feel very reassured because my sister became the company's legal advisor. I couldn't help but her all the way, so I want to start repaying her little by little. I aim to work hard to make the company a place that can help women who are isolated, like I once was. Finally, the old man's gone, and I feel relieved. Despite being all about money, he clung to life persistently, and he was such a nuisance. As my father's funeral, who passed away recently, was beginning soon, my brother, Kevin, said this with a smirk on his face. Our father was the one who paid for your debts, so how can you even talk about him like that? Shut up. He just wouldn't pass away, and the medical bills and everything were too much. Now I can freely use his money. You're terrible. After leeching off Dad so much? Say whatever you want. You don't have anyone on your side anymore. You're useless now, so just leave. Kevin, how could you? Tom approached my brother, but my sister-in-law, Catherine, who's also Kevin's wife, who was there, said this to us with a laugh. Someone who's married off elsewhere is no longer family, right? I bet even my father-in-law wouldn't want to be sent off by strangers like you. So just go home already. Something inside of me snapped after hearing what Catherine had said. To insult my father and furthermore deny our family ties like that is just too much. These people are rotten to the core. Speaking any further to people like them are just pointless. Besides, I definitely didn't want to cause any more commotion and ruin my father's funeral. I desperately held back the rage that felt like it was on the verge of exploding. Fine, I understand. Barely managing to utter those words, I decided to forego my final goodbye to my father and leave. I resolved in my heart to never associate myself with these people again. My name is Emily. I work as a nurse at a children's hospital. I married Tom, a radiology technician I met at work a few years ago. Despite our busy schedules with night shifts and on-calls making it difficult to find time together, we cherish every moment we can spend together. The job of a radiology technician who takes images that are essential for the diagnosis and treatment of diseases and other medical conditions for patients is a very responsible one. Handling numerous screenings daily, capturing every minute of details without missing any abnormalities, certainly comes with significant stress. Despite the demands of his job, I deeply respect Tom for working hard every day. Even amidst his busy schedule, Tom tells me that he respects how I always strive to connect with children and their parents or guardians with care and kindness. In the past, I never imagined I could be of such help to others like this, nor did I ever dream that such happy days would come my way. My father worked for a major trading corporation and was stationed overseas when I was young. As a result, my mother, my older brother, and I had no choice but to live, just as the three of us. And during those times, my mother and brother treated me almost like a slave. Didn't I tell you to clean this up? You're so useless. Hey, Emily, go buy a juice now. You have 1 minute. Such painful words and demands were a common part of my daily life. My mother, who adored my brother, treated me as if I was something she didn't need. Watching my mother's behavior as my brother grew older, he became more and more domineering and abusive towards me. I believe I tried my best to live up to their expectations, even as a child. Yet, contrary to my feelings, both my mother and brother continued to look down on me. Even when my father returned from his overseas assignment during my high school years, their attitude towards me remained unchanged. While my father immediately tried to defend me, my mother and brother blamed everything on him since he had just come back. While you were gone, I raised these two on my own. And now, after you've done nothing to help, you dare to complain? Don't act like you're my father now, after all this time. We have our own way of doing things, our own relationships here. That's how it's been all along. Don't act all high and mighty, butting in without knowing a thing. Despite their arguments, my father could not reach a resolution with the two of them, and their anger, instead of being directed at my father, who was the breadwinner, began to turn towards me. Witnessing this, my father felt helpless against my mother and brother, fearing I would suffer even more. Even though he was present, my father regretted not being able to change their attitudes, and, with tears in his eyes, apologized to me, saying, "I'm sorry." However, just having my father at home was enough to comfort my heart. Being treated as useless and a nuisance by my mother and brother, I was lost, unsure of my purpose in life, feeling like I was stuck in a never-ending dark tunnel every day. But my father comforted me with these words. "Emily, you're not useless. You're not a nuisance. You're our family, and you deserve to be here." Those words alone were more than enough. Even when I continued to be belittled and ordered around by my mother and brother, just having my father by my side prevented my heart from sinking into darkness like it did before. By the time I was about to graduate from high school, my mother told me to start working after graduation, and she didn't allow me to pursue studying in a university. My brother, who hardly studied, got into a private university and wasted his time there. However, when it came to making a decision that would impact my future, my father couldn't remain silent. He asked me what I wanted to do, and told me that I could decide my own future. Having always been under the thumb of my mother and brother, I hadn't really thought about my future, but this time I seriously considered it. I decided I wanted to pursue a profession that would allow me to help others, and from there I became interested in nursing. When I conveyed my decision, my father discreetly arranged for my application fees, admission fees, and boarding accommodations to attend nursing school, while making sure that my mother and brother didn't notice about that. And so I was able to successfully enroll into a nursing school. Since then, I've only returned home when my mother passed away. However, I always kept in touch with my father after entering nursing school. When I received my job offer, passed the national examination, started dating Tom, and even when I decided to get married, my father rejoiced as if it were his own accomplishments. On the other hand, I was worried about my father being alone at home. Yet my father would adamantly tell me he was fine, dismissing my concerns. One day, my typically stoic father told me over the phone, "Recently, I've been feeling a slight pain around the pit of my stomach." Although he said slight, I was sure he was feeling a considerable amount of pain. With that in mind, I recommended he visit a hospital. A few days later, after undergoing an endoscopy, my father informed me that there weren't any issues. I felt relieved at his news, but my husband didn't feel the same. There's a possibility that endoscopy might not detect everything, so Tom suggested that it might be good to get a cancer screening just in case. I conveyed this to my father and urged him to get the examination. As a result, it was revealed my father had pancreatic cancer. The diagnosis was still at a stage where the disease was still resectable, and so my father was hospitalized for surgery. Hearing the term pancreatic cancer initially plunged my world into darkness, but the surgery was a success. When Tom and I visited him in the hospital, my father, though visibly exhausted, greeted us with a smile. Just as I felt slightly relieved seeing my father looking healthier than I expected, the hospital room door suddenly flung open, revealing my brother and a woman standing there. My brother momentarily darted his eyes in our direction, but, without acknowledging our presence, brazenly walked into the room. "You're in the way." As we remained seated, my brother made a gesture with his chin towards the door, as if telling us to leave. The woman next to him also waved her hands in a shushing motion. I instinctively felt that this woman must be Catherine, whom my brother had married. I had heard about my brother's marriage from my father. "We've just arrived. Can't you wait a little longer?" I retorted, but my brother sneered at me, contorting his mouth disdainfully. "It's not like our father's condition will improve just because you talk to him." "I know that, but I haven't had much of a chance to speak with Dad yet. Please give us a little more time." My husband tried to persuade my brother, but he bluntly responded, "You're the guy who married Emily, huh? I don't care if you're a radiology technician or whatever. In the end, without doctors, nurses, and technicians like you, can't do anything, right? Don't act so high and mighty." Saying that, my brother smirked triumphantly and sneered at us. Even though we hadn't left our seats, my brother began to say outrageous things to our father. "Dad, I've gotten into debt again. I'm counting on you to help me out this time too." "What?" I was taken aback by my brother's words, letting out a surprised voice. Without showing any concern for our father's condition, my brother abruptly brought up the topic of money. And the fact that he said "this time too" indicates that he had made our father shoulder his debts in the past as well. "Kevin, you should deal with the debt you made by yourself. Do you even realize what situation our father is in right now?" "Oh, shut your trap. I'm letting Dad atone for his past sins, okay?" "Atoning? For what?" "For leaving us alone during our childhood. He left us during our precious childhood years. I'm telling him to make it up to us with money. Isn't that generous of me?" "What?" I never thought that my own brother could be such a despicable person. I was stunned by my brother's words, and couldn't find the right words to argue back. I have to do something. I'm the only one who can stop my brother here. Trying to find the right words to retaliate, the woman standing next to my brother, my sister-in-law, gives me a suspicious look. "Who do you think you are, coming here and acting all high and mighty after marrying into another family? You're in the way. Just go home." I was deeply irritated by Catherine's words, and I couldn't keep staying calm. Enough is enough. Forgetting we were in a hospital room, without thinking, I raised my voice. "Emily, calm down." Tom immediately intervened, and I was startled. At that moment, "Emily, please leave for today," my father said calmly, showing us a faint smile. "Thank you for today. Please come visit again another day." Hearing my father's words, my brother and sister-in-law had smug expressions. I couldn't shake off the uneasiness of seeing my father with my brother and his wife together. However, feeling guilty about shouting in the hospital room, I decided it wasn't right to argue further and left the room. Days went by with a constant worry about what went down between my father and my brother. Then one day, my father developed complications. Just having the complications was a shock beyond measure for my father. On top of that, he couldn't eat properly and was both mentally and physically exhausted. Despite the attending doctor's best efforts, my father passed away a few weeks later. A grief I had never experienced in my life hit me. However, I wasn't given the luxury of time to mourn for him. Despite my father's death, my brother and his wife did nothing. As a result, Tom and I had to handle all the funeral arrangements. On the day of the funeral, while greeting the attendees and waiting for the funeral to begin, my brother had the audacity to smirk, despite being at a funeral. "I feel so relieved now that the old man is gone. Despite only having money, he lived so persistently and was a nuisance. Our father was the one who paid for your debts. So how can you even talk about him like that?" "Shut up. He took so long to pass away. The hospital bills and other expenses were just too much. Now I can freely use his money." "You're despicable. After constantly leeching off our father?" "Say whatever you want. You don't have anyone on your side anymore." "You're not needed here, so get out." "Kevin, how could you?" Tom argued back to Kevin, but Catherine, who was there, said this to us while she laughed away. Someone who's married off elsewhere is no longer family, right? I bet even my father-in-law wouldn't want to be sent off by strangers like you. So just go home already. Hearing what Catherine had just said, something inside me snapped. To insult my father and then deny the relationship I had with him is just too much. These people are rotten to the core. Arguing with them any further would be pointless. And the last thing I wanted was to cause a scene and ruin my father's funeral. I struggled to hold back the anger that felt ready to explode within me. Fine, I understand. With only saying that, I decided to give up on my final farewell to my father and leave. I resolved in my heart never to deal with these people again. However, the next day, my phone kept ringing with calls from my brother and sister-in-law. I had a feeling I knew what they wanted, but I continued to ignore their calls. My brother never took an interest in me, so he had no way of knowing where I lived. If I kept ignoring him, he would eventually give up. Or so I thought. But my brother exceeded my expectations, hired a detective to track me down, and showed up at my apartment. "Hey, why aren't you answering your phone? I called you multiple times." "Come out already. Do you have any idea how hard it was for us to find you?" As if venting the frustration from being continuously ignored, the couple burst into anger the moment they saw me. Without waiting for my response, they said what they wanted to say one after another. "Is what the lawyer said true? That all of Dad's inheritance goes to you?" "That can't be right, can it? You're siblings, so the inheritance should be equally divided, right? If anything, you're the younger sister, so you should get even less." And seeing me silent, my brother shouted, "Say something." I was amazed at how selfish he was, considering he didn't even give me a chance to speak. What the lawyer said is true. I was surprised when I was informed too. "You're lying. So you're saying that you're taking all of the $10 million Dad left behind? I will never allow that." "Whether you allow it or not doesn't matter. It's already decided. Do you think you can talk to me like that? You've always been useless, and in the end, you couldn't even help out Dad. You should just do as I say for the rest of your life." My brother refuses to face the truth, which is inconvenient for him, and is trying by force to somehow get his hands on the inheritance. However, such attempts are pointless, because our father had excluded Kevin from getting his inheritance. "Didn't you hear from the lawyer? Dad specifically did not mention that you'd inherit his inheritance. Given all the unjustifiable things you've done, isn't that understandable?" "That's not true." "Lies. You always said it was atonement and made Dad pay off all the debts you made from gambling. Besides, you used Dad's shareholder privileges without his permission and sold his belongings without any of his consent." Citing other reasons, such as the insults from my brother and sister-in-law, my father had taken measures to prevent my brother from inheriting any assets while he was alive. What you both have done is more than enough to lose your rights to inheritance. If you understand the situation, then leave. Never show up in front of me again. Although the couple was making a lot of noise, as they listened to me, it seemed they began to understand the reality. How I guessed that was because their faces were turning completely pale. Leaving them behind, I tried to return to my room, but Catherine screamed out as if seeking help. Wait, please, share some of the inheritance with us." Seeing her still begging for the inheritance at this point, I gave her a cold look. Without waiting for a response, she began to blabber on. "We bought a luxury condo thinking we would get a portion of the inheritance from your father." "Excuse me?" "We thought we could pay it back immediately, so we borrowed money from a very shady source. If we don't pay it back soon, the interest is going to be insane. So please, share the inheritance with us." It seems that not only did they purchase the luxury condo, but ever since our father passed away, they've been recklessly gambling, even more than usual, and splurging on luxury brands. That's none of my concern. As I said that, my brother became flustered and shouted, "You've always done as I've told you. You should always listen to me. When was that? I've changed since I started working, contributing to society, and meeting my husband who actually respects me. I'm not the same insecure person I was back then. Don't ever think that I'll always obey you and do as you wish. When I raised my voice, which was as loud as my brother's, he collapsed to his knees, still clinging to me with tears in his eyes. He's your own brother and he's asking for help. If you're family, you should help him. Catherine also raised her voice, trying to persuade me. However, I retorted sharply. Wasn't it you who called me an outsider after insulting our father and denying the relationship that I had with him? I have no obligation whatsoever to help you any further. What's with your attitude? If you continue to stay around here, I'll call the police. Is that what you want? As soon as I mentioned the police, my brother and his wife vanished from our sight right away. Later on, when I met with my relatives, I overheard numerous complaints about my brother from them. During my father's funeral, my brother and his wife had acted inappropriately during the time they made a speech about my father, and they had terrible manners, which had left the entire family in disbelief. Apparently, after being informed by the lawyer that he had no inheritance rights, he went around asking all the relatives for my whereabouts. However, since no one told him, he ended up having to hire a detective. But even after going to the lengths of hiring a detective, things did not go as he had hoped with me. Desperate, he went around begging the relatives, pleading on his knees, asking them for money. Despite the relatives' astonishment at my brother's actions, they couldn't lend him money. As a result, it seems he and his wife fled somewhere to escape from their shady loan sharks. Months have passed since then. My brother and his wife continue to live a life on the run, constantly fearing being found by the loan sharks. Catherine must be frustrated with having a life like that. But, unable to support herself, she can't leave my brother, and likely spends every day arguing with him. On the other hand, since we couldn't attend my father's funeral, we visited his grave every month. Thanks to my father's support, I was able to get a job as a nurse. And with Tom, whom I met there, I'm determined to cherish every day and do my best in everything I can.
Business trip? What are you talking about when you're just working from home? You just want to skip housework, don't you? LOL.
It's not like that. I genuinely have work to do.
Don't talk back. Just listen to what I say.
It's been a year since I married him. He never acknowledges the work I do as a freelancer. Instead, he treats and scolds me as if I'm just a maid. I am the one supporting our finances and paying the rent. However, he took advantage of me mercilessly without showing any gratitude. If he's going to go that far, I won't stay silent either. I'll take advantage of my husband, who threatens me with divorce papers at every turn. Imagining his panic, I headed for my business trip. My name is Emily Johnson, a 29-year-old working for a publishing company. My husband's name is Tom Johnson, 5 years older than me, 34. I first met him 3 years ago when I went to the disaster area for work. Tom did a similar job, going on site to gather current information and turn it into articles. Since we both worked for publishing companies, we had the same goal and hit it off right away. We worked together on local reports and even after returning to the city, kept in regular contact. After 2 years of dating, he proposed me. We did not have a wedding, but we pledged our love in our own way by having a photo wedding. After officially married, we started living together in the apartment I had been living in. There was plenty of room, so the move went smoothly. With our marriage, I considered pursuing my long-cherished dream of freelancing. Quitting my job would mean losing certain benefits, but I wanted to see how far I could go. On my own. About a week after getting married, I decided to tell Tom about my plans to go independent. After returning from work and sharing dinner together, I brought up the topic. Hey Tom, I'm thinking of quitting my current publishing company.
What? Why all of a sudden? Didn't you say you want to work harder?
Yes, but I want to try going freelance.
Freelance? You're thinking of becoming an independent reporter?
Yes, I want to work without being confined by the company's policies, doing things my own way. I frankly shared my genuine feelings. I thought that Tom, being in the same profession, would surely understand. But in the next moment, instead of words of support, a mocking laugh came from Tom's mouth.
Aha. So now you want to go independent. That's just impossible for you, isn't it? LOL.
Why? How can you judge without even seeing me try?
You dream too big, you know. Your articles are popular only because you're working for that publisher.
That might be true, but
But what? Do you think you can maintain your current popularity even after going independent? LOL.
why are you saying it like that?
Anyway, it's impossible for you. You don't have that kind of strength. We're married now, so focus on household duties instead of work.
Tom eats my cooking while speaking harmless words to me without a care in the world. The points he made about the food, which normally would not bother me, today made me irresistibly angry. Despite my attempts to persuade him several times afterwards, he remained unyielding in his beliefs. Instead, he continued to confront me with harsh words like impossible for you and just a waste of time. However, I did not set out to take on the challenge half-heartedly. If I gave up on my dream now, I'd surely regret it. Ignoring Tom's discouragements, I decided to go independent. I submitted my resignation letter to the company and pursued the path of a freelance reporter. That evening, after quitting my job without telling him, Tom yelled at me.
Hey, are you kidding me? Didn't I tell you repeatedly not to quit your job?
I'm sorry, but I just can't give up on this.
I don't care. What are you going to do if our finances become unstable because of your rash decision? Can you take responsibility for that?
Well,
Whatever. I'm only going to give you $680 for living expenses like always. Even if we're short because of you, I won't pitch in any extra. Got it?
understood. I had always believed that my partner would surely support my dreams. But the reality turned out to be much harsher than I imagined. Being rejected by the very person I wanted support from the most caused a rift in our marital relationship. Why did Tom have to say things in that way? All I wanted was for him to support my dream. Was it too convenient to think that being a couple means understanding each other in everything? Well, it hurts. I can't give up on my dream now. Especially since I've gone against Tom's wishes to pursue it. I have to make it successful no matter what. I strengthened my resolve further. From then on, the resistance I faced from Tom only intensified. Gradually, it wasn't just about my work. He began to berate me as a person. Whenever I was even slightly late returning home, he would change his demeanor and raise his voice at me.
Hey, what time do you think it is? It's already past 7 p.m.
Sorry, there was a traffic jam on the way back.
Haven't I always told you to be home by 5 p.m.? Coming back from work and there's no dinner ready is absolutely unacceptable.
I'm sorry. I'll start cooking right now.
I've already ordered delivery. I'll charge you for it later.
Under such circumstances, it is never acceptable to go to the site overnight to cover the event. Therefore, I could only travel to places I could return from within a day. However, depending on the day, interviews could take longer than anticipated, or there might be traffic jam. I could never predict the situations unless I actually went to the location. Given how weather could influence my schedule, the idea of always returning by 5 p.m. was unreasonable. Still, I couldn't confront Tom head-on about it. While he endured daily packed commutes, I, his wife, enjoyed a flexible work environment at home, free from corporate bindings. Perhaps he couldn't tolerate such a stark contrast in our work conditions. Understanding his feelings, I always tried my best not to upset him. Nonetheless, I continued to work hard as a reportage writer. Initially, I submitted articles to publications seeking freelance pieces and received pay on a task-by-task basis. Gradually, I began receiving direct assignments. I also got requests to start my own blog, so alongside writing reportage, I began blogging. As a result, income went up quickly. I realized that my monthly income was about 3 times what it had been when I was an office worker. There were even times when I earned more than $6,000 a month, allowing me to save a substantial amount. Even when I consistently earned $6,000 a month, I kept it a secret from Tom. It was evident that he would be furious to learn that I, once his peer in the same industry, was now freelancing and earning more than him. A year into our marriage, his attitude hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten worse day by day, with our conversations dwindling to almost none. Instead of daily conversation, I was increasingly being abused by him one way or the other. Then one day, on a rare day off, I purchased some clothes at a department store. Upon seeing the shopping bags when I returned home, he glared and said,
Despite barely having any income, you're shopping for yourself. Do you know your position?
"Don't talk to me like that. I bought everything with the money I earned myself, you know."
Oh, really now? Aren't you using some of the $600 I give you every month?
I'm not doing that. Besides, $600 wouldn't even cover the rent. There's no way I'm using that money for myself.
What? Did you just mock me by implying I'm low income?
No, no one's saying that. Then Tom suddenly threw the beer can he was drinking at me. The beer splashed heavily on my clothes, though it didn't hit me. "What are you doing?" I shouted, and his face turned beet red as he raised his voice.
I give you $600 every month, don't I? I stay with you even after you quit your job on a whim every month. A full $600. You should be grateful to me.
"What do you mean? I've been covering the rest of the rent, utilities, and food expenses with my own earnings, you know."
You're probably just using up your savings, right? There's no way you, after becoming freelance, could be earning more than me.
If you don't want to believe me, that's your choice. But I haven't troubled you enough to deserve such blame.
Say whatever you want. Just remember, if you come crawling back to me later, don't expect any allowance from me.
Without apologizing for throwing the can, Tom looked at me and scoffed through his nose. My patience with him was reaching its limit. A few months later, the publisher to whom I usually provide articles directly requested me to go abroad to write articles on natural disasters. Since it was abroad, a day trip was obviously out of the question. So I decided to inform Tom about the job details. "Tom, I know this is sudden, but I have to go on a business trip overseas this weekend."
Business trip? Acting all high and mighty for just a freelancer. You just want to skip out on housework, don't you?
"It's not like that. It's really for work."
There's no way a freelancer like you would be sent on an overseas business trip. How dare you come up with such a ridiculous lie?
"I'm not lying. I was directly requested by the publisher."
Don't talk back to me. Just shut up and listen to what I say.
As if I was the one being unreasonable, Tom continued to blame me. I was so irrationally angry that I glared at him, and he opened his mouth in frustration.
Do you even understand your place? You're just a reporter in name, practically no different from an unemployed layabout. Yet, I'm still here with you, aren't I?
"You're with me because..."
Yeah, that's right. You wouldn't be able to survive without me. If you have a problem with that, then let's divorce.
Tom pulled out divorce papers from his suit pocket and tossed them in front of me. It was at that moment I felt a sharp pulse in my temple, and an unprecedented rage consumed my entire body. I had reached my breaking point. I absolutely refused to endure this any longer, to remain married while being spoken to so freely. I decided to turn the tables and take advantage of him. Tom always had a habit of threatening me with divorce papers whenever he didn't like something. Until now, my sole desire had been to avoid a divorce, and I had always apologized profusely. But that was no longer necessary. I filled out the divorce papers and submitted them to the city hall while he was away. I also arranged to cancel our apartment contract at the end of the month. Additionally, I rescheduled my overseas business trip to leave that very day. Naturally, I didn't inform Tom about any of this and kept all notifications and calls turned off. After finishing everything, I returned to my home after 2 weeks. It was already past 8 p.m., and the lights were on in the house. I didn't want to see him, but I had to return home regardless. Taking a deep breath, I opened the front door. Whether he heard the sound or not, I could hear furious footsteps coming from the living room. Looking up, I saw my ex-husband, Tom, standing there, arms crossed, and with a defiant stance. Just as I was about to speak, he began to shout loudly,
You, how dare you nonchalantly come back home? You haven't returned any of my calls. Where have you been, and what have you been doing?
Where? I told you, right? I was on a business trip overseas.
That again? There's no way someone like you, who just occasionally steps out to write some insignificant articles from home, would go on a business trip, right?
I told you. I've been directly commissioned by the publisher. I've been properly compensated for this trip as well.
Compensation? Yeah, I bet it's just about $6, right? LOL, traveling abroad to earn a mere $6 and neglecting house chores. What an idiot. LOL.
Tom continued to laugh boisterously and kept belittling me. But he still hasn't realized that we haven't been a couple for quite some time. Perhaps it's his ignorance that allows him to be so bold. Despite what he says, I'm no longer affected by it at all. I calmly spoke to him. Do you enjoy looking down on people like this?
Oh, what are you suddenly on about? LOL. Isn't it the fault of those who get looked down upon?
I haven't done anything to be looked down upon by you. In terms of income, I earn about 5 times as much as you do.
What, 5 times? That's impossible. LOL. If that's true, that means you're earning close to $6,000 every month.
Yes, that's right.
Huh?
Tom's mouth twitched in surprise as he was confronted with the unexpected truth. He seemingly couldn't come to terms with the fact that I earned more than him. His face turned a deep shade of red as he blurted out,
Don't be ridiculous, lying like that. If a wife can't even do the housework, divorce is only choice.
Gasping for breath, Tom thrust new divorce papers towards me. I smiled sweetly at him and revealed the truth. Oh, did you prepare another one?
Yes, I did. Now hurry up and sign them.
Relax. I already submitted them to the city hall 2 weeks ago.
What are you talking about?
We're no longer husband and wife. Why are you still in this house? Stunned by my statement, Tom mumbled incoherently. After swallowing hard several times, he finally found his voice.
Well, what do you mean? You submitted the divorce papers. We're no longer a couple. Why would you do that?
Why? Because you handed me the divorce papers the other day, didn't you?
Yes, I did. But I didn't really want a divorce. I just gave it to you as a threat, to remind you of your position as a wife.
That's not my concern. You gave me the papers, and I felt it was okay to part ways, so I submitted them.
Why? Why would you? I didn't want a divorce. I just wanted to make you understand your place as my wife by threatening you with the papers.
Tom's eyes filled with rage as he forcefully grabbed my shoulders. As expected, he threatened me with divorce papers and just wanted me to do what he said. He had never truly planned on divorcing me. Knowing this, I chose to end our marriage. I finally realized that I could never be happy with him. To release all the pent-up frustration I had been feeling, I poured out my emotions. What are you even saying? Don't make me laugh. Do you have any idea how I felt during our year of marriage? Can you understand being mocked and belittled by the very person I wanted the most support from? I have no reason to be lectured about my position by a man like you.
Wait, Emily, I just wanted you to.
Don't call me so casually. Disgusting. I told you we're already divorced. We're complete strangers now.
What should I do after this divorce? Please let me stay you.
This apartment is under my name. Now that we're divorced, you being here is like trespassing. I never want to see your face again. Get out now and never show up in front of me ever again. I threw all of Tom's belongings outside. At first, he resisted, but over time his reaction slowed, and in the end, he just hung his head in defeat. Later, Tom called his parents and apparently moved his things to their house. However, given the circumstances, he wasn't allowed to stay with them, and they reportedly declared that they wouldn't provide any support. As a result, he had no choice but to live on his meager income, relocating to a cheap apartment far from his workplace. Naturally, he couldn't spend money as freely as before, and he struggled just to get by. His savings ran out, and now he seems to be living a dreary life of only penny pinching. On the other hand, I found a new apartment and started living alone. I finished moving, and now I work peacefully every day in the office space I've set up at home. Thankfully, my articles have started getting featured on major online media platforms. My blog has continued to grow in traffic and has become a significant source of income. I plan to keep writing great articles, doing my research wherever and whenever I like. I want to continue my job in a way that suits me without pushing myself too hard. Strangers don't need to come to the funeral. On the night of the wake after the kind father-in-law passed away, the mother-in-law, who had thrown all the care of the father-in-law onto us, said that. What? Yes, it's the family ceremony, so outsiders should refrain. Besides, the $300 million inheritance from Dad is ours. Catherine said that, and my husband was surprised and asked back, "What are you and sis talking about? It's Dad's funeral, and 300 million. Then the mother-in-law said, looking annoyed, "I won't give the inheritance to your youngest child like you. You should renounce your inheritance claim. You can't just decide that on your own. I don't care about the inheritance anyway," Tom said, and I followed up with a tearful voice. "Exactly. Please let us proudly say goodbye to our father-in-law." Then the mother-in-law glared at me. "Why are you—" and I saw you're acting like family. By the way, it seems the nurses said that Dad asked for you in the end. Could it be that you had an affair with my dad? The older brother and sister dramatically showed their disgust. Ew, disgusting. Were you trying to turn Dad to get the inheritance? Tom, you married such a terrible woman. I clenched my fists tightly. They treated Tom and the kind father-in-law horribly, and I suspect an affair between me and the father-in-law. I never knew such terrible people existed. I said calmly. Understood. We will attend the funeral. My name is Emily. I'm turning 32 this year. I met my husband Tom when we were in the same college club, and we got married. I work as a civil servant, and Tom works in IT, and we're living happily together. Tom, isn't it about time to bring new clothes for your mother? Oh, right, I forgot. Thanks always, Emily. On this day off for both of us, after some shopping, we headed to the hospital where the father-in-law was admitted. Ugh, Tom, Emily, did you come to see me? The father-in-law, smiling on his private room bed, had a stroke last year, leaving his left side paralyzed. Since then, he's been hospitalized and undergoing rehabilitation. It was pretty cold outside, Dad. Is it so? Make sure you two don't touch a cold. Tom spoke gently. I swapped the clothes and arranged the flowers we brought. Emily, Tom, thank you always for doing this for someone like me. What are you talking about, Dad? Don't worry about it. Yes, just let us know if there's anything you need. As we were having our usual conversation, the door to the room suddenly opened, and the mother-in-law, brother-in-law John, and sister-in-law Catherine burst into the room. The mother-in-law, upon seeing us, remarked sarcastically, "Oh, I thought I heard someone. It's Tom and, what was her name again?" Hearing those words, the brother-in-law and sister-in-law chimed in. "Hey, Mom, that's a bit much. Just because he's a leftover, right? Right. It's Emily, isn't it?" I looked down without saying a word. We'd been married for 3 years, and I've met the mother-in-law several times before. There's no way they don't know my name. "Hey, Mom, John, and Catherine, stop being rude to Emily." As my husband sputtered in frustration, the mother-in-law dramatically shrugged her shoulders. "It was just a light-hearted joke, you know. Why are you so mad?" "A joke? You always—" He tried to continue, but the mother-in-law interrupted. "Hold on. We're about to have a family discussion. Can you two step out?" "What do you mean family? I'm family too." Despite what my husband said, John gestured dismissively. "Why are you lingering around when you're not wanted? Just get out." The sister-in-law Catherine chimed in with a smirk. "Exactly. This conversation doesn't involve outsiders like you." My husband's face showed his pain as he said to me, "Let's go." I bowed to my distressed father-in-law and left the hospital room with my husband. On the way home, my husband apologized to me. "Emily, I'm so sorry for how my family always acts." I gently nodded in response to my husband's words. "No, the one truly hurt by all of this is you." At my words, my husband gave a weak smile. He was born the youngest of 3 siblings. The mother-in-law had always doted on the older brother and sister, largely neglecting my husband. From what he had told me, she never once attended his school events or sports days when he was a child. While the older siblings, John and Catherine, always received brand new and expensive items, Tom was given hand-me-downs that were worn out whether they were clothes or toys. From a young age, Tom realized that pleading was pointless, so he gave up. Despite their poor academic performance, John and Catherine were sent to private colleges, while Tom, who was supposed to have had good grades, was told by his mother, "After middle school, get a job. I won't provide for your education." Left with no choice, Tom attended a public high school and a reasonably priced national university with the help of scholarships, and later secured a job at his current company. When we decided to get married and I visited Tom's family home for the first time, his mother was completely indifferent. "I'm not interested, and you can do whatever you want." Saying so, she didn't even offer us tea. John and Catherine amusingly observed me, making sarcastic remarks. "It's surprising you'd want to marry someone like him," laughed Ruth. "Yeah, you must really have unique tastes." Tom has always been treated as an unwanted family member, like leftovers. Even after getting married, this treatment didn't change. We were the only ones not invited to family weddings and ceremonies. Because of this, relatives later scolded us, asking, "Why didn't you attend?" "Still, only my dad has always been on my side," Tom said, narrowing his eyes. When Tom was young, his father was often away from home due to his job assignments. However, during occasions like Christmas or birthdays, even if Tom didn't receive a gift from his mother, his father always made sure to prepare something for him. Despite his busy schedule, his father even took days off from work to attend Tom's graduation. When Tom and I were getting married, only his father was genuinely happy and blessed us. My kind-hearted father-in-law always cared about me too. However, even such a father-in-law is rudely referred to as a convenient ATM by the family, especially his wife. That's why, since he fell ill, we've been the ones taking care of his daily needs and nursing him. "Tom, I promised to cherish both you and your father." Upon hearing this, Tom, holding my hand, said, "You've truly been through a lot for us. Thank you." Several months passed. We received a call from the hospital informing us that Tom's father had another stroke. By the time we arrived, it was too late, and his father had passed away. "Dad, Dad, I wish I had shown you more gratitude and love." Seeing his father's peaceful face in eternal rest, Tom broke down and cried out loud. I too shed tears, recalling the kind words and smiles of my father-in-law. While Tom's mother, brother, and sister were also present, they didn't seem particularly saddened. In fact, they oddly appeared to be in good spirits. "It's a hassle, so arrange the funeral for me." Saying so, Tom's mother handed a funeral brochure to Tom and quickly returned home. We were in shock, but we knew we had to give Tom's father a proper send-off. We immediately contacted the funeral home and arranged the wake and funeral. A few days later, after the wake was conducted and the visitors had left, I approached Tom's mother, who was dressed in mourning clothes. "About the arrangements for tomorrow's funeral." "Oh, don't worry about the arrangements. Just ask the funeral director." And then, what she said next was utterly shocking. "You outsiders don't need to come to the funeral." "What? Huh?" Tom and I both exclaimed in disbelief at the same time. Then the brother-in-law next to the mother-in-law started to speak, grinning mischievously. "Thanks for the cure up to now, but your role's over, so don't come to the funeral, all right?" "What do you mean?" As I was flustered, the mother-in-law continued. "Exactly what I said. It's a family funeral, so outsiders should refrain from attending. And the inheritance of $300 million is ours." My husband, shocked, responded, "Bro, sis, what are you saying? It's Dad's funeral, and 300 million?" The mother-in-law then said, seemingly annoyed, "Your father was wealthy from the start, and was into stocks, so he left a large inheritance. But I won't give any of it to the youngest like you. You should renounce your inheritance." "How can it? I don't care about the inheritance." "Exactly. Please let us properly say goodbye to father-in-law." Then the mother-in-law glared at me. "Why are you an outsider acting like family? I heard from a nurse that he called for you at the end." "That's because I was always taking care of him." However, Tom's brother and sister mockingly showed disgust. "Were you having an affair with my dad?" "Oh, disgusting! Were you trying to seduce her father to his inheritance?" "Tom, you married such a scandalous woman." "Stop joking around. Emily is—" My husband began to speak with an angry tremble in his voice. But the mother-in-law quickly interrupted him. "A woman who would have an affair with her father-in-law, and a good-for-nothing. Youngest son like you aren't family. Stay away from us forever." I clenched my fists tightly. To mistreat my kind husband and father-in-law, and then to suspect me of having an affair with him. I couldn't believe such horrible people existed. Just as I was about to shout in anger, my husband raised his voice. "Enough! How dare you say such things about Emily, who took care of Dad with all her heart?" "It's okay, Tom." I held my husband back and spoke in a calm tone. "We understand your feelings. We won't attend the funeral." My husband continued, his voice shaking. "Yes, after being ridiculed this much, I can't think of you all as family anymore. We'll pay our respects at Dad's grave." And so my husband and I paid our final respect to the father-in-law and left the place. 2 days later, I had received numerous calls on my cell phone from the mother-in-law. When I told my husband, he mentioned he was getting the same calls. There is no need to answer. Let's just ignore it. My husband said that, so I didn't answer any of the calls. However, the calls kept coming incessantly. A week later, just when I was thinking of blocking the number, the mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law showed up at our apartment. "What do you want now?" As my husband spoke with a hint of annoyance, the mother-in-law ranted in a flustered tone. "What do you mean all of your father's inheritance is yours?" Then my husband replied in a calm voice. "Ah, a lawyer came to us and explained everything. In fact, the day after the funeral, a lawyer had visited us and informed that the father-in-law had left a will bequeathing all of his assets to us. That's why we have started the procedures to claim the inheritance. You all, being family, probably assumed you'd naturally inherit something, right? Normally, you'd at least get a mandatory share, wouldn't you?" "Exactly. But the lawyer said you guys are the only ones eligible for inheritance." and everything goes to Tom. My husband and I calmly addressed the fuming mother-in-law. Of course, the father-in-law had requested a lawyer to disinherit you, all while he was still alive. If you're disinherited, you won't even get the mandatory portion. Then the brother-in-law angrily lunged at my husband, spitting as he spoke. That's it. I can't accept this disinheritance thing. Then my husband responded with an angry tone. John, didn't you used to say useless things to our father, who was in need of care, like how he should be done away with quickly? Our father documented everything while he was alive. It's moreover, while our father could move, didn't you misuse his bank deposits for your own sake? Isn't that a clear reason for disinheritance? How do you two even know about that? Our father-in-law left a letter with the lawyer for us. Everything was written in there. I also spoke up with a determined attitude. Then the sister-in-law yelled out, I made money too. It's ridiculous for you two to take everything. Yet my husband glared at her. Catherine, don't you have a habit of getting into debt? On the day when you told us to leave the loom to discuss family matters, didn't you force Dad to give you money to repay your debts? Putting debts onto someone else is also a reason for disinheritance, isn't it? As my husband and I spoke, the sister-in-law was left speechless. Then the mother-in-law, losing her patience, screamed with a flushed face. How dare you, the youngest and the outsider, act so arrogantly? Enough of this. My husband sighed deeply before speaking. The one who did the worst is you, isn't it, Mom? While Dad was working away from home. You had an affair for years, didn't you? Oh, worry. Both the brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who seemingly were unaware of this, stared at the mother-in-law in disbelief. I once again spoke calmly. Our father-in-law collected evidence and arranged for it to be delivered to us and the lawyer. My husband continued speaking, looking at the mother-in-law with disdain. Even if a spouse has had an affair for many years, they can be disinherited. Didn't you know? You suspected an affair between me and our father-in-law, probably because you yourself were having an affair, right? As we spoke, the color drained from the mother-in-law's face, turning it pale blue. All three of you have done terrible things to our father. It's too late to change anything now. Speaking sternly, my husband was interrupted when the brother-in-law suddenly prostrated himself, begging desperately. Tom, I'm begging you, share the inheritance. I need money because my business failed. The sister-in-law, her face messy with tears and snot, clung to my husband's arm, following her brother's lead. I apologize for anything. If my debt is discovered, I'll get the last. My husband looked down at them, speaking coldly. We will never forget what you've done to us. We will never forgive you. The mother-in-law stomped her feet and screamed in frustration. How are we supposed to live from now on? We're family, right? Help us. My husband and I exchanged glances and spoke almost in unison. Family, you say? Who was it that said outsiders shouldn't come to the funeral? There's no way we're helping you. Figure it out on your own. As my husband spoke, we shut them out, but the three of them kept shouting from outside. However, when the property manager, alerted by the commotion, came over, the three of them sheepishly left. After they left and everything became quiet, my husband let out a deep sigh. As I went to comfort him, he silently gripped my hand. Shortly after, we received all of our father-in-law's inheritance and moved to ensure we wouldn't be ambushed again. We also added a lot to our family's register. I heard this from relatives, but it seems that after that incident, the brother-in-law begged family members to lend him money. When he was refused, he apparently borrowed from loan sharks. He's now reportedly being chased by some very unsavory individuals. The sister-in-law's husband found out about her debt habits and divorced her. Now, she's working in a nightclub and trying to repay her debts. The mother-in-law, it seems, was abandoned by her lover, who was apparently only interested in her for money. She aged considerably since then. The three of them now live in a rundown, six-mat apartment, struggling to fend off hunger. But their situation is no longer our concern. On the other hand, a lovely baby boy was born to us. Now free from all troubles, my husband dotes on our son, embodying the role of a loving father. We hope to continue living happily, pouring the kindness our father-in-law showed us into our son.